Welcome back to the Cryptocurrently podcast for Monday, June 18th. Welcome back, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. If you're new, thanks for showing up. I would appreciate it if you hit subscribe, hit like, hit share, hit retweet, all that stuff, man. We're trying to get the word out. Now listen, I've been doing this podcast since December. This is an explanation for you folks that are new. I've been doing this podcast since December in light of the emergence of the cryptocurrency market and all that entails. I am a former futures and options trader, a broker on behalf of clients, and I have a certain amount of expertise in the financial industry. And the cryptocurrency market is fascinating to me. And as this show has developed and evolved, I see that the direction of this show has to change just a little bit, and we're going to be rebranding the show pretty soon, probably around the first of the month. And I'm going to be renaming the show, but we're still going to be talking about cryptocurrencies, but also the economy as a whole and politics as it applies to economy. And a lot of what you're seeing in the news right now, it's like the old adage says, like, if you want to know the truth, follow the money, right? Now, as a commodity trader, like that those words to me are scripture, right? If you want to know what's truly going on, just follow the money, right? It'll tell you everything that you need to know. What a man treasures in his heart, so is. Oh, wait a minute, boy, I screwed that one up. Basically, what Jesus was saying is like, hey, man, if you you want to know what a man's truly about, find out what he treasures. And treasure, right? Money. You follow the money, you get to know the truth. So we're going to be talking about that as a whole. And for instance, right, as an example, over this weekend I was talking to a person, his name is Rich. I don't want to give like his whole name or like where he works or whatever, but we're going to hear from him later on in the week. And if you want to know more about him, then he will have that option to give his full name, where he works, and all that. But from what I can gather, he is at the very forefront of investigating what's truly going on in the cryptocurrency market, as mainly as it applies to ICOs. And there are some things that look very criminal, very much against the law, going on in the cryptocurrency market. But unfortunately, it's like, well, it's such a new market, there aren't really any laws to break. How convenient, right? And just like I've said before, man, I've said this a million times. The problem is, like, when you read all of these, these press releases and all the white pages and white papers and whatnot from these companies, they all have like this socialist lingo, like, oh, we're gonna decentralize capitalism, man. We're gonna bring equality through wealth. And it turns out they're just ripping people off left and right, just as socialists always do, right? Socialism is theft by way of voter approval, right? But it's still theft, right? And now, like, the true condition of man is being exposed in these ICOs and the people behind them and who they truly are. They're just thieves. They're just people that are acting out of their own sense of self-preservation. They just want to get rich, and they'll steal from you to do it. And that's one thing I learned as a commodity trader, is that money changes everything. People will kill for money. People will prostitute themselves for money. I've even seen people literally commit, like, not in front of me, but I've seen people commit suicide for money. Believe that or not, right? People kill themselves because they think that their insurance is going to pay out and their family will be better off, or whatever, or because the financial burdens of child support or whatever, it became too much, and then the state said they weren't even allowed to see their children, so they killed themselves. Right? That's money related. It all ties in, and there is some truly devious things going on in the world of politics and money. Now, politics and economics, again, for you new folks, there's a school in London. It's called the London School of Economics and Politics. It's not called the London School of Economics, nor is it called the London School of Politics. It is called the London School of Economics and Politics because the two are the same thing, right? Where the money goes, the politics goes. Where the politics are, the money is, right? The two, you cannot separate the two. Like look at right now, there's Donald Trump is engaging in a trade war. Let's just take steel, for example. Well, that's politics. What does it have to do with? Money. Politics and economics. You know what I mean? It comes together. Now, on this episode, I'm going to try to make it so that each of these podcasts comes with a subsequent YouTube video. But it's a little bit harder because it's like I've got the screen going on, and normally like I just sit here in my podcast and I'll close my eyes or I'll kind of like stare off into my mind where I can organize my thoughts as I'm saying them, and so the camera is a bit of a distraction. But look, there's certain things that I need to be able to show at the same time. Like if I'm for you podcast listeners, like there's going to be certain things that I'm going to bring up where it's like you're going to hear me talking about what I'm looking at on my screen. Well, if you want to see what I'm talking about, you're going to have to go to the YouTube show, which is, by the way, I'm also going to have to rebrand. I'm thinking the new show is going to be called Arch Advocate with Pete Dobson, but you guys can chime in, right? Or I was thinking about calling it Bible and Guns with Pete Dobson. Who knows? If you guys want to chime in, give me your submission for what you would like the show to be called. By all means, I am open to suggestion. But Arch Advocate, I was conferring with my associate Todd Milligan, and it kind of looks like that's the direction we're going to go in. But hey, if you come up with a better name, far be it for me to turn out a bad idea. Now listen, we're moving into very strange times, to say the least. Strange times. Strange people are about, right? Very, very apparent abuses of power in the most powerful government in the world. And we're seeing horrific displays of power-drunk, power-mad people abusing their power. And it looks like that the virus has spread through rank and file. It's everywhere, right? Now, I'm not saying that everybody is affected. There's good policemen, there's good FBI agents, there's good Marines, there's good sheriffs, there's good politicians. It's very difficult for me to say those words, but there are good politicians, right? Trey Gowdy, Duncan Hunter of San Diego. Like I believe that he is a good man with good intentions, but there's also very evil people in office. And I want to talk about that, but first, I'm just going to quote this to you. This was from Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Right? There's no reason for us to fear. In fact, fear is not, fear not in the Bible. It's not an encouragement. It's a commandment. Fear is forbidden. And you must not be afraid during these times. You must not be afraid. You must be courageous. Because there's a lot of work. Listen, we've had it very good for a very long time. We've had uninterrupted wealth, right? Uninterrupted economic growth for how many decades now? Like we've had a couple of hiccups here and there, but pretty much since the end of the Second World War, it's been nothing but easy street. We've gotten lazy. All right, but the time is over, right? We had our time, and now it's over. And there's a couple of other things that are also over, in my humble opinion. All right, number one, this age-old, this 500-year-old bickering between Catholics and Protestants. That time is over. You Catholics and you Protestants, it is time to come together and work together. We're both on the same team. That sort of tribal thing of like, oh, you pray to Mary, or oh, you don't pray to Mary. Like, listen, we don't have time for that bullshit anymore. It's over. Get together and be together as brothers and sisters in Christ. That time is over, right? That endless bickering, which we had the luxury, right, during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, right, when Christians were killing other Christians. Right? That time is over. That was a luxury that we had. because we had nothing but spare time and lots of money. So what did we do? We had to find an enemy. Oh, there's these other Christians over there who don't worship Jesus the way that I like to worship him. I think I'm going to go over there and kill him and threaten his children. Well, okay, that time is over. That was a luxury afforded to us by lots of money and a lot of spare time. It's over, right? To my resident atheists, right? There's folks on this show that are friends of the show. Atheists, listen, good for you, right? I'm glad that you have the freedom to be an atheist. But the thing is that was a luxury provided to you by a Christian world, a Christian ethic, right? A Christian society. And that time is over. You no longer have that luxury of sitting around thinking, well, I don't know what I think about God. Well, okay, well, what do you think about evil? Right? There's evil shit going on right now. We don't have time for you to make up your mind. That time is over. Right? It's time to join the fight. Because there is evil going on and we can follow the money. We can see it. Right? What did we just see just a few days ago? The Inspector General report came out. Who all was mentioned? Right? There was a bunch of people mentioned. The Peter Strzok and his girlfriend and James Comey and whatever. And there was an itemization, a list of like, oh, here's what we're talking about. There's this what we're talking about. Here's what we're talking about. And then it's like, oh, Hillary Clinton's emails, and that's what we're talking about. And the very next line, underneath Hillary Clinton's, investigation was sex trafficking. That was the very next line in that itemized list of what that report was going to be talking about. Is that a coincidence? Okay, let's just say that's a coincidence. Now, if you're new to the show, there's one thing you need to know about me. I am what's called a word snob. I don't appreciate it when people use words that when they don't know what that word means, right? I mean, I do it quite a bit, right? Sometimes I'm talking and I'll reach into my brain to pick out a word and I'll find the wrong one and I'll spit it out. I mean, it happens, but I'm talking about like repetitive, like when people say, "Oh, I want to impeach the president." It's like, okay, well, what does that word mean to you? Oh, that's where we just get rid of the president. It's like, well, okay, well, that's not what that word means. That's not what impeach means, right? When people say that like they're in the cryptocurrency market, they're like, "Oh, I'm investing in cryptocurrencies." It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're speculating, and there's nothing wrong with speculating, but you are not investing. You're not investing. It's just like you can't invest in futures and options contracts on commodities. Those are speculations, right? One word I want to point out, it's a word that we use all too often. Coincidence, right? So in that Inspector General report, we saw we're going to be talking about Hillary Clinton, and the very next line is we're going to be talking about sexual assault on children and trafficking in children. Now, for you leftists, like you could be looking at like, oh, well, that's just coincidence. That's just that's like looking at a menu and saying like there's a steak at one point and just underneath it there's a hamburger. It's just telling you like what's on the menu. Okay, maybe it was a coincidence. I'll give you that. I'll spot you that argument. But hang on just a second here. Let's look at what coincidence actually means. Noun. A remarkable concurrence of events or circumstances without apparent causal connection. Okay? That's the first one. And the second one says, the fact of corresponding in nature or in time of occurrence. All right? So, listen, if you go to your company Christmas party, the company Halloween party, right? And you decide that you're going to dress up as Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. And you get to the party and somebody else is dressed up like Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. Okay, that's a coincidence, right? That's a coincidence. A lot of people would walk into that situation and say, oh, isn't that ironic? No, it is not ironic. Irony means something else, all right? Coincidence is, if you pull up to the, if you're driving a red car and you pull up to the stoplight and another red car pulls up next to you, that's a coincidence, right? But when there's, like if I were to be accused of a crime, right? Let's say, hey, the cops show up to my house and say, hey, listen, somebody fitting your description robbed a bank today, right? Well, that would be coincidence, right? That would be a good example of coincidence. And if the cops showed up to my house and said, hey, listen, somebody fitting your description robbed a bank today. Looks very much like you. And it also, a report was given that they drove, the getaway car also matches the description of the car parked in your driveway. Well, then that's not a coincidence, right? When there's two or more coincidences lining up in a row, it's no longer coincidence. Well, what that's called is evidence. You understand that? So here we have the IG report, and it comes out, and it's we're talking about Hillary Clinton in this thing. The very next line, we're talking about trafficking in children. Very next line. So let's explore this idea of coincidence, because listen, there's going back to the Bible, right? We are living in biblical times, right? Now I want to address one thing. Actually, I say I want to address one thing. We've got a number of things to address here. There are many people out there that'll say, like, oh, your ancient book, what about all those times it says in the Bible where God commanded his people to go wipe out entire villages? And that God had expressly told them, it's written right there in the scriptures, God had expressly told the people of Israel, go wipe out these people, kill everybody, kill all the women, kill all the children, and kill all the animals, and do not take any of their, precious metals or tools or anything. Like, don't touch anything. Kill everything that lives, everything that has a pulse, kill it, right? It's a hard thing, isn't it? That's a hard thing for a lot of people, not me, because, I read and I study, but that's a hard thing for a lot of people, because it says that actually happened. Those commands were given, and those commands were carried out, right? How do you justify that? How do you get around that, right? How do you talk about being the the carriers of truth and light when those occurrences happened in the Bible, right? I know, like, there's all kinds of people who hate God, and they're just like, oh, I can't wait to hear this. Well, here it is. Here it is. Every single one of those times that we can find that in the scriptures, right? In the books of Moses and the law, and then the books of Joshua, and that whole time period there when those things were going on. Every single one of those people who were marked for termination, right? Where God had told Joshua or whoever, like, go wipe out those people and don't touch anything of theirs. Just kill everything that lives. Every single one of those tribes were people who worshipped Moloch, right? And Moloch was a god that required child sacrifice. Every single one of those tribes were violating children and killing them. Every single time that you can see that, if you do your studying about who those tribes were, who those people were, they were people who preyed upon children. And so they were marked for termination. That is the thing that will get you put onto God's chopping block as a people or a nation, is when you start practicing victimizing children, right? So please believe me when I tell you, I am very disturbed when I see this sort of thing happening in my nation, because not only is it vile and evil, and it's happening right out in the open, right? These demonic beings are walking out right out in the open, right out in the sunlight for everybody to see it. It's happening right in front of you, right? That means that these demons are bold now. And they're not to be feared. Demons are weaklings. That's why they prey upon children. They're weak. They can't contend against people that are strong. They have to prey upon the weak. And that's the ultimate slap in the face to God, is like preying upon his protected class of people. The vulnerable, the defenseless, the children, right? When we see in the IG report that Hillary Clinton's being investigated for this, and the very next line says, oh, we also started investigating, like, all of this nasty, felonious things that are happening to children. Maybe it is a coincidence. Like I said, I'll give you that. But now let's take a look at something else here. Just a few years ago, a young lady by the name of Monica Peterson was working down in Haiti. and she was about to expose the Clinton Foundation for trafficking in children. Of course, we can't prove that because she killed herself, right? It has been speculated that there was a child sex ring being run by the Clinton Foundation in Haiti. And this girl, Monica Peterson, who was going to expose this, killed herself. We're getting a little bit more familiar? Or how about Senator Nancy Schaefer of Georgia was exposing the Child Protection Services Agency. And she was exposing the fact that stealing children had not only been sanctioned by the federal government, but it had been commodified. Okay? It had been commodified. That means money was injected into the equation. Now again, if you want to know what dirt is going on, you just need to follow the money, right? And people will do horrific things for the smallest amount of money. So the bigger amount of money that there is, the more horrific the shit can get, right? The child trafficking business, as it applies to the federal government, that's stealing children and injecting them into the foster care system and into the adoption agency industry. It's over $40 billion a year. Now, it's not just $40 billion transacting, and changing hands. It's $40 billion that is going to enriching the lives of judges and politicians and DHS, employee Department of Homeland Security employees. It's a huge industry. People are getting rich off of taking children out of people's homes legally, right? Nancy Schaefer of Georgia, Senator Nancy Schaefer of Georgia, just after she was unseated, right? She lost her seat as a senator for this very thing, for exposing CPS and exposing, like, there's over $40 billion in money that's changing hands here. That's a lot of money. That's enough money to get people to do just about anything for you, right? She was then found suicided in her house. It turns out it was a murder-suicide, right? She killed her husband, and then she took her own life. However, right, now you might be saying, what are you, Alex Jones? Are you going to wear a tinfoil hat? Right? Well, okay. Right? Maybe she did that. Maybe she killed her husband and then herself while in the middle of being involved in a righteous cause, of exposing this horrific sex traffic as it applies to children in our own government bureaucracies, and that those monies, most of those monies made available, that $40 billion, that was done by Bill Clinton, right? So there's ties all the way to the White House on that, and going back to one of the usual suspects. Coincidence? Okay, well, you're starting to rack up a whole lot of coincidences here. At some point, you're gonna have to take a step back, scratch your head, and say, "Well, wait a goddamn minute here, right? What's going on here?" And you tell me. You go look at the YouTube videos of Senator Nancy Schaefer, right? There's a bunch of them, right up until just before she was found dead with her husband. You go look at those videos, and you tell me, does that look like a lady that's about to murder her husband and flip the switch on her own life? Put her own light out? You look at it. You decide. Well, Pete, I'm no doctor. No, you know. Does that look like a lady who's walking around with a dark cloud over her head? Does she look like she's bombed out of her gourd on Xanax? Wait, you look at it. You tell me. And all of a sudden she's dead. When after exposing that, Democrats are profiting from the traffic of children. And they have been doing so for a long time. All those illegals coming across the border and being separated from their parents, that wall that Donald Trump wants to build, that wall represents a complete cutoff of a supply of a commodity for Democrats. You go look at the pictures of how Democrats warehoused those families and those children. That's what they are to the Democrats. They're cattle. They want to take those kids, and by the way, there's a lot of those kids missing during the Obama years. These kids, they're just gone. That happened on our own soil, people. And you could say, well, I mean, there's inefficiencies in the bureau. Dude, there's $40 billion on the table, brother. You need to think about that. That's happening on your own soil. Now, there's going to come a certain point where enough's just going to be enough, right? Where you're going to have to decide where you stand on all of these things. And you're going to have to find out, like, who are these people that live in your neighborhood? Who are your judges, right? Do you have Homeland Security offices in your town? You need to find out, well, who are these people? Some of those guys are doing great work. Like I told you, I used to have a neighbor. That was his job. His job was to go after online predators. And he worked for the Department of Homeland Security. He was doing good work. I'm not saying like the whole thing is corrupt, but I'm saying there's corrupt people in those places and they're making a lot of money. And they're doing evil shit. Evil. Right? Demonic. That's what that is. There is a demon whose name is Moloch. Right? That's what I'm saying. Like there are people that are targeting children for that purpose, for money and for power. And these people, like the veil is being lifted right now, and hopefully it continues. And that's another thing, man. You need to be praying for the protection of your president and those people in that house. That man is surrounded by enemies. Right? That man's life is not safe right now. And you need to be praying that, you know, protection over that man, because we're starting to see now the true face of the Clintons and the true nature of like the people at the top two people in the FBI were crooks. People in the FBI that were tasked with finding out if Hillary Clinton was taking secrets and you know, putting it on her own computer. Like those people who were there to find out if Hillary Clinton was committing felonies, committing treason. Those people were actually lackeys for her and her campaign. Now you can say like, oh, Pete, this is all conspiracy. Okay, well then, Democrat, let me ask you this. Did you not see when Bernie Sanders filed a lawsuit, actually a number of them, filed legal action against the DNC for subversion, for subverting the will of the people who said, I want Bernie Sanders to be the face of the DNC. I want him to run for president. California did, Florida did, right? Bernie Sanders won. And the DNC said, I'm sorry, voters, right? I'm sorry, people who are using their ability to vote for their own political leaders. We're just going to forget what you just said. We're going to put in who we want. That is subversion. That's treason. The Democrats, you lost because the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, those people said, I don't care what you say, we're going to put in who we like. That's subversion. That means that the DNC believes that they are above you. They are above the will of the people. Right? They don't see you as being valuable. They don't see the political will of the entire organism being the thing that needs to be followed. They've already made up their own mind. What do you call that? There is a political system that operates that way. Do you know what it is? Do you want to take a guess? Take your time, sweetheart. You can press pause anytime you want, right? Now listen, when citizens are no longer operating under equal protection under the law, and are also like, if they're not operating under equal consequences of the law, that's a problem. That's a problem. If you would have had your email subpoenaed, right, by a judge, and you just took those email, you took the server and you smashed it up and poured bleach on it, you would go to prison, right? Rightfully so. You would go to prison for that, but not Hillary Clinton. And you can say, oh, email, you're just talking about, no. Those emails were subpoenaed, and she destroyed them. That's against the law. You can't do that. So now we have inequality. She is not equal under the law. She is above it. She is just a fellow citizen. Now we have fellow citizens operating outside of our laws. That means they're in a different class of people and they have put themselves there. That's a problem, right? When policing agencies, either the FBI or local PD, are using their authority that was granted to them by the very citizens that they are to protect to bring about political ends, that's a problem, right? When we have politicians that time and time and time again are being accused of trafficking in children for profit, lots of profit, $40 billion a year. $1 billion a year, 40 of them. People getting rich off of innocence, off of children. That's a problem, right? Just like my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, be it Catholic or Protestant, like listen, the Catholic Church has a problem, right? There are priests, that the people at the very top who are preying upon children. Well, those men are demons. Those men are demons, and they must be dealt with. Now, you watch, right? Because of the Pope's office, because of the Pope, for whatever reason, either because he's complicit or he's just unwilling, whatever reason, because the Pope has been sheltering those men, those demons that have been preying upon children, you're going to have true Catholics that are going to be standing up very soon. Catholics are tired of hearing about that shit, Mr. Pope. Right? Whatever your name is. I'm not going to call you Benedict because that would be a compliment. But whatever that guy's name is, like, listen, you better fix that problem. Because you're going to have a bunch of pissed off Catholics who are like, all right, I guess we're murdering people then. Right? If you're not going to fix this, then I am. We're not going to have this going on in our holy places. Right? Because that's one guaranteed way to get God to come down on a chariot of fire. Take a big giant shit on you. That's how you make that happen. You victimize children, or you allow children to be victimized, that's how you get God to put you on the chopping block. And that's where we are as a nation. And when we see, right, like, look, America's full of all kind of different people. Most of them good. Most of them hardworking. And we don't want to be bothered with this political nonsense. I don't want to be bothered with this. I just want to go to work and do my 8 to 10 hours there, come home, pay for the things that my family needs, and then just, live my life. Go to church on Sunday, watch some football. That time is over, man, right? You need to come into community. You need to find out who your friends are. If you've got a pastor that lives in a mansion, you need to get out of that church, right? That's another thing, man. And we'll get into like the economics of that and how all that plays in. But listen, politics and economics, and we have $40 billion in child trafficking that is sanctioned by the federal government, that's being operated by CPS. Ironically, Child Protection Services. That's a lot of money, and it's tied in with politics. And we're going to be getting way deep on all of these things, the politics and the economics. Follow the money. All right? That's the show for today. Just again, we're announcing a rebranding of the show, and we'll do a launch here in a couple of weeks. I have to figure it out with my podcast host provider, and we're going to be working on renaming it and restructuring it so everything syncs up nice. But look, there's some evil shit going on right now in the world, and we need to have our eyes open, and we need to be at the ready, right? There's people going into homes with badges and guns and removing children out of homes, right? That puts the people who live in that house in a very peculiar situation where it's like, well, I can either live on my knees or die on my feet. And I fear, if this very delicate situation that we're in as a nation right now, if it doesn't go absolutely perfectly, we're probably going to be in that position again where that tree of liberty needs to be fed again, needs to be watered again with the blood of tyrants and patriots. Right? That's where we're at again. Because no matter what you think, conspiracy theories or whatever, it's like, hey, okay, well then you follow the money. You look at it, you tell me what you think. You look at all the evidence and you tell me what you think. Is that all just Alex Jones conspiracy theory? Or is there something to it? Are you gonna live in a society run by the state, run by people that you don't know, run by bureaucrats? We're all probably going to have to be faced with a situation where we're going to have to decide if we're going to live on our knees or die on our feet. And though that's a terrible proposition, it's certainly not one that's unfamiliar in the history, the long history of mankind. So once again, I'll tell you, fear not, says the Lord, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, and yes, I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Amen. That's the show for today. Listen, if you want to support the show, you can go on to my website, archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. Click on the Patreon link, give a couple of bucks a month, whatever you want to do, man. Everything helps. Gonna be, buying new equipment, getting better sound, better lights. I know this, the YouTube presentation isn't all that it could be. I'm trying to build a show, man. Got to start somewhere, right? So if you want to support, great. And if you want to hit share, hit like, hit subscribe if you're on the YouTube, definitely do that. I appreciate that as well. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.